Hi, and welcome to Better Boating in Connecticut. I'm your host, Yolanda Cooley, and I'm here today with our guest. His name is Lieutenant Commander Jesse Diaz, and he's joining us from the United States Coast Guard, Sector Long Island Sound. So, Jesse, if you can just give us a brief overview of the Coast Guard and Sector Long Island Sound and what you do for them.
Yes, thanks again for having me, Yolanda. I appreciate any opportunity to talk about boating in Connecticut. So real quick about the Coast Guard. As a service under the Department of Homeland Security, we are a military branch, and we have 11 statutory missions that we're responsible for carrying out. And some of those missions include search and rescue, law enforcement, drug interdiction, and especially at this very cold time of the year, ice breaking is actually one of our missions. We have a pretty large Coast Guard footprint that's within Connecticut, but we also have units on Long Island Sound and the Long Island itself. And the sector is again responsible for carrying out the 11 statutory missions within the area of responsibility that spans the entire Connecticut coastline, includes the Long Island Sound, the north and south shores of Long Island, and a jurisdictional line that extends 200 nautical miles offshore of Long Island. But because we're talking about boating in Connecticut, to put it in the context of the Long Island Sound, the Coast Guard is responsible for protecting those on the Sound, protecting the boating public from threats coming from the Sound, and protecting the Sound itself. And that mission gets carried out by a team of people, over 2,300 people that are active duty, reserve, auxiliary, and civilian. So,
wow, that's a big area and a lot of people involved to keep our boaters safe here in Connecticut. So thank you for all that you do. And just to let you know that the state of Connecticut, the Deep Boating Division, works very closely with the U.S. Coast Guard, and that's through one of our recreational boating safety grants. And the grant money is utilized to carry out our boating safety programs, such as our boating safety education classes, our boating safety inspections, our casualty investigations. Every time there's a death here in the state of Connecticut, our Deep NCON officers are required to investigate any of those boating fatalities. The money is also used to maintain the waterways and markers and other navigational aids. And also the money is used to enforce the boating safety laws and regulations. And that's one of the ways that we work with the Coast Guard to reduce and decrease the number of accidents, injuries, and fatalities here in the Connecticut waters. So today here we are talking about a new app that was launched back in May of 2015 as part of the National Safe Boating Week. And I would like to ask Lieutenant Commander Diaz if he could just talk about this valuable resource, since we're always either holding a smartphone or we have an iPad in our lap. So let's talk a little bit about this United States Coast Guard boating safety app that can be downloaded on either Google Play or iTunes. If you would like to view it, you can download that and look at the different features. So the first feature that we have is about the state boating information. And as you see up on the screen that was just there, we brought up Connecticut-specific boating information for the state. And here it will give information about the requirements here in Connecticut. And do you want to elaborate anything more on that, Lieutenant Commander?
Certainly. So with the advancements in technology, it's just a matter of time before the team of recreational boating safety, leaders got together and created this app. And really the app is a very valuable tool for anyone that has a smartphone, a smart device. And as you had mentioned, for example, given the proximity of Connecticut waters to New York waters, let's say, for example, you're a New York boater coming from the North Shore of Long Island and you want to make a quick trip over to the Connecticut shoreline, and your first time, boater to the sound, you want to know what is the state boating information, what are the state, requirements for, safety, for example, on my recreational boat. It's very easy and user-friendly to just, download the app. As you had mentioned, whether you're on an Android or iOS device, it's a free download. And with the simple click of your touchscreen, you can, drill down to Connecticut state boating information, and from there you can answer any and all questions. What is the requirements that you have to carry in regards to safety? Who can I contact if I have any kind of questions or concerns, or if I want to take a boating education class, what is available to me? And that's not just for the state of Connecticut; it's for all the states, obviously, for the United States. And then in addition to that, it will also give you what is required or recommended in regards to safety equipment on your recreational boat. Through a couple of simple clicks, you can select your vessel. Obviously, you'll have to do some profile management. You'll have to activate and allow for location services, input your vessel length, the type of propulsion that you have, and the required equipment that you will need in order to be in compliance with state and federal regulations. And then in addition to that, you can also schedule free vessel safety checks. That is a courtesy service that the Coast Guard Auxiliary takes on and can conduct locally in your state, or you can actually request one and they will come to your vessel, whether it's on a trailer or at a marina, or at your residence if you're on a waterfront. That's a really valuable service that is available to recreational boaters. And one of the spoken benefits of having one of these vessel safety exams conducted on your boat is not only to learn about why you need these valuable pieces of equipment on your boat, what is in good working condition. They often conduct inspections to make sure they're in good standing order. But when you earn a decal from the Coast Guard Auxiliary, what that will do for you as a recreational boater is if you're ever encountered by an active duty Coast Guard law enforcement boarding team and they are conducting a boarding on board your vessel, if they have visibility that you have this decal, they know that you've already been through the rigorous safety exam inspection. And then part of our boarding effort is to ensure you're in compliance with all applicable federal laws and regulations specific to safety. That will actually expedite your boarding so that we can, get you along back to, enjoying the Connecticut waters. And so in addition to that, you can also get a lot of information regarding nav rules. If for some reason you want to brush up on your navigation rules inland or, offshore, you can also file float plans. And they are a very valuable tool in the realm of emergency preparedness. We can't, as a service, stress the importance of preparedness, because at any given time, weather could change or some kind of accident can happen on your boat that you didn't plan for. And if you're going out on a voyage, or you're going out for the day, we always recommend, out of prudence, to file a float plan and leave it with a family member or friend, because if you go out and you go on your boating excursion and for some reason you don't come back at the time that you were expected to return home, either to family or friends, and your family member or friend can contact the local police department or even the local Coast Guard sector. And what we will do is ask you, hey, did your friend or family member file a float plan? And if you have that plan, it'll give us very valuable information to help relocate you if in fact you are in distress. And then the latter parts of it are you are able to contact the National Response Center if you discharge or release any oil or hazardous material, or if you are part of our America's Waterway Watch, you observe any suspicious activity, you can make reports through the app as well. But probably the best feature of this app is you are able to request emergency assistance. And at the app itself, at the very bottom where you see emergency assistance, what you can do is you actually click on the app, and this is obviously after you have filled in your profile and you have allowed for location services to be activated. If you actually click on emergency assistance and you find yourself in a distress situation, when you click on that emergency assistance button, it will actually call the local Coast Guard sector and put you in touch with, command center watchstanders that are standing the watch 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, that can either help you out of your distress situation or provide you any additional assistance, whether it's a relay to a family member or friend, or provide you contact numbers for commercial assistance providers. So.
Well, what's nice about having this app installed on, a smartphone is that you can, if you don't have a GPS on board, you can also get your location by downloading this app. It'll give you the latitude and longitude that you can give to emergency responders as well. If you want to call on VHF channel 16, you can give them the location that way as well, and that's a handy tool. But however, we also like to, really recommend that people use their VHF channel 16 to hail for help by calling Mayday. If it's a life or death situation and you need immediate assistance. The app, sometimes if there's no cell service or if your fingers are wet, it's kind of hard to, call for the emergency, the emergency assistance that you need. And one of the other things that I did notice on the app, that when the location services are on, you can get the latest weather reports from the closest NOAA weather buoys, which is great. Or you can also report a hazard in the water. And I'm sure, in the springtime when Connecticut River is flowing with lots of trees and limbs, you get lots of hazards to navigations being reported. And this is just a handy mechanism for somebody that is, sitting on their boat, that they can make this quick report about the hazard that they're seeing there.
Certainly. And Yolanda, if I could just underscore what you had mentioned regarding the use of a VHF Marine Band radio, despite advancements in technology and the use of a Coast Guard application, nothing is going to beat using a handheld radio, or as you have pointed out over there, a Marine Band radio, very commonly installed on many recreational boats. And we have a pretty good technology that we have implemented, nationwide, and it's called Rescue 21. And with a simple, click on your VHF radio, and within 1 second, your VHF radio is going to transmit to what we call a high site, a radio transmission, and our high sites can actually triangulate your position with just 1 second of a push down on your radio on your handheld, and that will always outlast 10 times out of 10 any type of emergency notification from an application, because like you mentioned, waterproof radios, you're not going to encounter the difficulty with your finger if it's wet. Also the limitation of being within a cell phone coverage zone. Sometimes there's little vacuums where you're not able to get within cell phone coverage. But with, a VHF Marine Band radio, you're definitely going to be able, to get located by us.
Right, and there's this feature that's not so new anymore. It's the DSC calling. It's called Digital Selective Calling, and that allows you to call other stations using your unique, it's a Maritime Mobile Service Identity, or MMSI number. And as soon as you could call another friend, as long as they have your MMSI number, or also if you were to flip the switch here under the distress, that sends out a signal to the Coast Guard and every other mariner out there that has this type of radio out there, so that they can, it'll give the position, you'll hear an alarm, it'll give you the position of where the emergency is, and anybody within your area can respond and get you some assistance a lot quicker than maybe somebody at the Coast Guard that's on land. It provides a quicker response for you.
And in addition to, as you highlighted with the DSC and the MMSI, just like on your smartphone app, there is some registration that is required. And if I could just encourage anyone that's using, whether it's the app or whether it's DSC, or even just the simple registration of your vessel, I would highly recommend you input reliable telephone contact information, because the Coast Guard watchstanders that are in the command center, upon receipt of any of these alerts, whether it's a DSC alert, whether it's an alert from a smartphone, or via telephone, via cell phone, one of the things that we're going to try to acquire is your telephone callback number. And what we generally find, especially with DSC, is with the MMSI numbers, they're generally not registered. And to register your MMSI and to make sure you get the full utility out of this tool, we highly recommend registering your MMSI with the FCC directly, or you can look to a commercial salvage or commercial assistance provider, rather, whether it's Towboat US or CTO. They can actually register your vessel on your behalf. And I'm talking about very generic registration information, like the name of your boat, the registration numbers for your boat, whether they're Connecticut, Rhode Island, or New York, a telephone contact number, and a description of your vessel. So
that's great. That's great. We're going to take a quick break for a public service announcement, and we'll be right back with some more helpful information for you.
This summer, law enforcement agencies across the country are participating in Operation Dry Water and looking for impaired drivers.
Whether you are on the water or on land, you'll be going nowhere fast if you choose to operate a vessel or a vehicle while impaired.
Drunk boating becomes drunk driving, and law enforcement officers will be on the lookout for those who choose to operate under the influence.
Alcohol use is the #1 factor in recreational boater deaths. Be smart, be safe, and never boat under the influence.
Be advised, I'll be arresting an impaired boater requesting assistance. 10-4, I'll meet you at the boat ramp.
Hi, and welcome back to Better Boating in Connecticut. I'm Yolanda Cooley, your host today, and I'm here with Lieutenant Commander Jesse Diaz from Sector Long Island Sound. And we're going over the United States Coast Guard Boating Safety app, and we're also going to talk to you about ways of getting help when you're out on the water. And I just want to briefly talk about the app, and we said that there's definitely some, you can request assistance by hitting the emergency assistance button on there, but we really recommend that you use the VHF radio and broadcasting a Mayday call on channel 16, which is only to be utilized for distress calls. There's no more, radio checks being done on channel 16. Those should be taken off to another channel. So we've reserved channel 16 just for that purpose. And another way of requesting help, although it's not the preferred method, is to call 911, because depending on where you are located, we're not sure which cell tower is going to pick up your signal, and it's just going to be harder for emergency responders to basically locate you and triangulate where you are exactly. Just to let you know too, Jesse, that we have NCON officers and we have inland waters, and a lot of our recreational boaters are in inland waters as well in Connecticut. And obviously, nobody is really monitoring channel 16 on the inland ponds and lakes.
Sure.
So we have a deep dispatch the 911, you can use 911 to get some kind of rescue. But also we have a deep dispatch number, and that's 860-424-3333. And that number is manned 24/7. So if a boater gets into trouble, they can call that number as well.
And if I could just interject in regards to the use of a VHF channel 16 radio and trying to relay your distress call to the Coast Guard. As we had discussed before, while there's the Coast Guard app, whether on your phone or tablet, there's some limitations, whether it's cell phone coverage or something as simple as your finger being wet. You're being able to go through the touchscreen prompts may be a challenge.
Or a dead battery.
Or a dead battery, absolutely. And one of the benefits of a marine band radio is it's working off of your recreational boat's battery. So some of the radios have GPSs already installed. because as the Coast Guard, and this is for all recreational boaters out there, there's 4 to 5 major things that the Coast Guard is very interested when we're talking to you in a distress situation. Number one, you want to know your position. And, ideally it's a, GPS position that is provided, or sometimes if you know a geographic, reference point, I'm, approximately 500 yards off of Hammonasset Beach. If that's what you have in a, real tight or fast situation, the position is something that we're always very interested in. We want to know the nature of your distress. Did you have someone fall overboard? Is there a person in the water? Did you run aground? Did you hit a piece of aids to navigation? We want to know what puts you in a distressful situation. We also want to know a description of your vessel. I am an 18-foot Boston whaler, or I'm on an ocean-going sea kayak. We want to know that because chances are you're a needle in a haystack, and at any given great boating weather day, some of the things that we want to make happen fast is searching. And if you give us the position, the nature of your distress, the description of your vessel, and then how many people are on board your vessel, that's also very important for us. And the last thing we want to do, and likely we will instruct you to do, is to don your life jacket to make sure that everyone is safe, and wait while Coast Guard units, as well as our state partners, are also making way to that same location. So
That's great. Thank you for that. For the takeaway message today, we want to give a little bit of safety. You're talking about donning life jackets. We have here in Connecticut a mandatory wear right now for manually propelled vessels, and that means that everybody aboard a manually propelled vessel is required to wear a life jacket from October 1st through May 31st. That is required. It is the law. Even though it's only October 1st through May 31st, we really do recommend that you wear it all the time. There's about 75% of our fatalities are from drownings, and of those people that drowned, 90% of them were not wearing a life jacket. So it's very, very important to wear your life jacket at all times. You never know when you're going to leave your vessel.
Exactly. And in addition to that, there were some probably shared safety messages that we would also like to provide. Obviously, wear your life jacket is a very common one. Can't understate how important it is to always wear your life jacket. Highly recommend taking either a Coast Guard auxiliary, a power squadron, or even your respective state's boating safety class. If you grown up on the water, and you avid user of the water, there's always something new that you can learn, whether it's an emerging technology or change in policy. Another thing is never boat under the influence. Mm-hmm. Often alcohol and boating is a very common mix. And then really two small safety points I would like to make is with the increased popularity in paddlecraft, and sometimes with paddlecraft not being stowed properly, and this could be stand-up paddleboard to your ocean-going sea kayak. We highly recommend any paddlecrafters to use if found contact stickers, and we don't recommend just one if found contact sticker. We recommend 2 if found contact stickers. Placing one in your cockpit of your kayak, for example, and then placing one in another area because sun will cause them to fade, or sometimes they'll come off. And using a waterproof marker is obviously very useful. And then in addition to that, providing a very reliable telephone contact number. And this goes into my last point, whether it's MMSI, whether it's your state boating registration, or whether it's an inbound contact sticker. Putting in a good contact number is very helpful for us Coast Guard watchstanders, because that's going to be usually the starting point, or one of the most vital pieces of information that we can get.
Great, thank you. We have plenty of these too, and we have them located at our DMV offices as well, and we're working with retailers to have them pass them out as new boaters come in and buy their paddlecraft. Like I said, it saves in a lot of efforts in search and rescue. If a boat just goes adrift, we can contact that person immediately and find out if somebody's really missing, or it just floated away because of a storm or whatnot. How about something about talk about cold water immersion?
Sure. So probably this weekend, we're in the middle of January. We're about to see warmer temperatures come through, and sometimes boaters will be more encouraged to go out and enjoy the waters of Connecticut. So you'll have this thing called warm weather, cold water, and we'd love for recreational boaters to not let their guard down, and be prepared when they go out on the water. Be prepared to be exposed to colder temperatures, because the air temperature may be 50 degrees, but the water temperature is significantly lower, and it could be a matter of minutes before if you suddenly fall in the water to experience hypothermia and then become unconscious. And simple preparations, additional layering, waterproof immersion suits can go a long way for survivability.
Right, and there's not that many boaters out there to spot you, so you
Exactly.
really need to be prepared to stay in the water for a lot longer than you would be in the summertime. So,
Certainly.
well, thank you, Lieutenant Commander. It was great to have you here at our show today. I hope that that you'll find some value in the information that we provided, and we'll see you at the next show. Thank you for joining us.